So let's move on to the next question, guys. So this is the question we have. Minus 12y square minus y square x plus x square y square is greater than 0. This is given. Y is equals to x to the power 4 minus x cube. This is given. This means x comma y belong to an integer. That means x and y are integers and they are not equal to 0. Okay, perfect. So now we have to compare x, y and 0, right? So firstly, let's try to solve this. So if you see this very carefully, you can see y square, y square, y square. So you can take y square common. Okay. So if we take y square common out of this, what we are left with is x square minus x minus 12 is greater than 0, right? Y square x square minus y square x minus 12y square. I think this is simple, right? So now if you break this down into factors, so y square, this is like x square minus 4x plus 3x minus 12 is greater than 0. I'm not explaining these things, I'm considering this is very basic, right? So y square, if you take x common, x minus 4, you take plus 3 common, x minus 4. Again, I'm writing all of this so that you can understand, otherwise I would have written it directly. Y square, so this is x minus 4, x plus 3 is greater than 0, right? So this means, okay, so firstly, what does this mean? Firstly, y square, right? Y square is something which will always be positive because we know that y is not equals to 0, right? So even if y is negative or y is positive, y square will always be positive, right? Because if you take a negative y, the square will be positive. If you take a positive y, it will still be positive, and we know it's not equal to 0. So this is something which is always greater than 0, right? So now we have to solve for this, right? So, okay, now I'll tell you some thing which is kind of new. Maybe you know, maybe you don't know. So in inequalities, the way you break down this is that, let's suppose we have to calculate this, right? So make a number line. Okay, make a number line. For example, let's say if this is 0. So if x minus 4 is 0, so x equals to 4. So we write 4 here. If x plus 3 is equals to 0, so x will be minus 3. So we write minus 3, right? And we make this over here like this, right? Or just let me just tell you over here, this is 4 and this is minus 3, right? So what we do is that we will make semicircle over here. It started from here because there are two numbers, so this, right? If there would have been three numbers, for example minus 3, some random number 2, 4, so we would have done this, this, this and this. I hope this is fine, right? And then what we do is that, starting from the left, we do it as plus minus plus. If this was the case, we would do plus minus plus minus, right? So this is something that you have to practice and kind of learn, but this will make things very easy, okay? So I hope this is clear, right? So we have this over here. Now in the question, we had a greater than 0 sign, means positive. So we'll take this part and we'll take this part, right? So that means x belongs to minus 3, this is infinity, this is minus infinity, this is plus infinity, right? So if I write down the intervals, this plus interval is from minus infinity to minus 3. So it is from minus infinity to minus 3, the plus one, okay? The minus one, the negative one, is from minus 3 to 4, okay? And the plus one again is from plus 4 to infinity, plus infinity. Okay, I hope this is clear. Just take a little bit of time and try to absorb what I just said, okay, and practice it. So this is the point. Now we know the sign was greater than 0, which is positive, which means we'll take this one and we'll take this one. Maybe this approach is not very relevant to this question, but this approach is going to be very, very useful in some other questions as well if you encounter. So you should, know this. So these are the two things, right? So that means x belongs to minus infinity to minus 3 union 4 to infinity, meaning x can be any value from minus infinity to minus 3, or it can be any value from 4 to infinity. This is what it basically means, right? Okay, now we also had one other equation over here, which was this, right? So x can be any value. X can be any value minus infinity to minus 3. So for instance, we take minus 100, right? So if we take minus 100, then this basically becomes minus 100 to the power 4 minus 100 to the power minus 100 to the power cube, right? Minus 100 to the power 4 minus 100 to the power cube. So this term is positive, right? So this is positive. This is negative, 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 positive. So this overall becomes positive, right? And if we take any number starting from 4, then the fourth power will obviously be greater than the third power. I think that is obvious. So even in this case, the answer will be positive, right? Agreed. Okay. So that means y will be positive no matter what you take, right? Okay. So y is always positive, right? Even when x is negative, then y is positive. Even when x is positive, then also y is positive. But the question is asking us to compare x, y and 0. If x is negative and y is positive, then xy will be negative, right? Because negative into positive. So in that case, xy will be negative. But if you take x positive, then also y is positive. So in that case, xy will be positive, right? So xy is sometimes negative, xy is sometimes positive. So that means we cannot say anything conclusively. So the answer will be D. So your D is the answer. I hope this is clear. Just take a bit of time to understand if you don't know this, right? I think you'll. So first, what we did was that we did a factorization. We took some things common, we factored it, and this is the equation that we got, right? Now, since we know y square is always positive, we don't care about this, right? What we care is about these two terms. So firstly, we make this 0, so we get 4. We make this 0, so we get minus 3. Then I told you you have to make it this way and then write plus minus plus. Starting from the left, you write plus, right? So that means, and since we have greater than 0, so we'll be taking the positive signs. So x belongs to minus infinity to minus 3, right? Union x belongs to 4 to infinity, right? If you take any negative value, the fourth power will always be positive. The third power will be negative. So negative into negative becomes positive. So this overall becomes positive. So that means y is positive when this is the case. When this is the case, so any number you take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 till infinity, x to the power 4 will always be greater than x to the power 3. So this will still be positive. So no matter what value of x you take, y will always be positive. But in the question we were asked xy. So when x is negative, y is positive. So xy becomes negative. When x is positive, y is still positive, xy is positive. So it's sometimes negative, it's sometimes positive. So we can't say that if it's positive or negative. So your answer is D.